You know, we pull in the same lot we used to park at for Rams games. It's like Steve was there at the gate too, the Steve parking guy. Like, dude, have you moved since we?
That's hilarious. It's an exciting game.
It was fun, man. It was a great atmosphere.
Okay, there's Sully. Okay, two more. Slowly now. You're right on time. Good job.
8 o'clock.
Now I'm holding up a dollar.
I don't even.
Okay, we'll have this meeting come to order. It is the Washington Area Highway Transportation Committee. It is February 24th, 2020. Roll call, please. Gina.
Craig Miller,
Present.
Fisher,
Here.
Stephen O'Connor,
Here.
Ray Frankenberg,
Here.
Bob Ingetman, Bill Stratman.
Here.
Mayor Lucy. Joe Holtmeyer.
Here.
Danny Cassette.
Here.
Albie Eckelkamp, Bill Miller,
Here.
Tim Brinker. Steve Sullentrop,
Here.
John Nilsson.
Here.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, good morning. Good Monday morning. There he is. First item is always the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. Do I hear any corrections, additions, deletions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move. Second.
First and second, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, Craig, Amtrak, anything new?
No real report this month go around. I guess I got a meeting coming up in April. I did get some information that I didn't get into the packet on time, just that I'm kind of compiling. I'll get it in for next time. Destination reports about where people that are on and off that mode of transportation here in Washington, where they're going to, where they're stopping at, where they're coming from and landing here. Just kind of some interesting stuff. So I'll put that in for next month.
Anything from funding that's coming up that we need to know about or whatever?
We talked a little bit last time about sending a letter on that funding cycle. We were kind of at the end of it, and I'll keep on that. So when that next comes up, I talked to Brian Ross at Moorpark about that, and he said he's like, there's a more appropriate time for that, and so hopefully in April I can talk with him about that, and we'll find when the best time is for that.
Very good.
Did you get the feeling that there was anything new in that? I mean, it seems like they always need money, and at certain times of year it's worse than others. Is this kind of just part of the cycle?
It's been, they've been operating in arrears. They were renewed their current budget, which means they'll go further into arrears likely this year. And so that's what, on the timing on that would be say, hey, let's see if we can do something as a group here locally and as a state to push and say, hey, let's get that cleared up and maybe, pick a direction for, increasing ridership, fixing some of the, delay times, things like that, to make it a more useful mode of transportation in the state. So.
And then I have one more question on that. The arrears, is that the state not paying the railroad, or is that the state running behind on what they're taking in?
The arrears is the Amtrak program, the River Runner, not collecting enough revenue for its costs, paying back to Amtrak. Now, the state does cover that, and they're paying late. But they're getting a larger late balance as things go by. And so they approve to pay what they have, current outstanding, and continue to pay that. There's no fear that it'll go unfunded, but they've kind of been kicking the can down the road, really.
Yeah, that's what they've been doing for a number of years.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments, questions?
I would just add a couple projects that we're working on. You'll notice there's a fencing project. It's a security fence project that was part of a lawsuit settlement from 2015, I believe. It's a new fence from the culvert, essentially by Sugar Fire. There's a culvert that actually drains stormwater to the river. It starts at that location, works its way west over to the Union Pacific Railroad Yard. So that fencing project should be wrapping up here fairly soon. Another project, you notice that there's a kiosk, an informational kiosk that's along the trail. On the lower parking lot. The kiosk can be removed during high water events. We did put some abilities to pick that up and move it, so if there was any concern about why the city put that in a water location, we can move that. It's meant to, again, people who maybe would be down in the area coming in to kind of go down the riverfront, kind of see what's going on around town. It also provides some stormwater information in regards to picking up litter, those type of things. So it's kind of meant as an informational item. So if you guys have seen that kind of on the riverfront next to railroad tracks, we just kind of thought that was a good location to place it.
Is the city funding that, taking care of it, or is it the MoDOT? or-
It's the city, 100% funded by the city. The concept is that it's a stormwater item, because it would give some, there's actually a plaque that's going to go on it commemorating the 93 flood. So we had that was a grant that we received. We needed to place it somewhere, so it kind of was a, let's do a bunch of things with the least amount of money as possible, and then meet a bunch of goals. So it's kind of a joint effort between the chamber, the Stormwater Fund essentially, and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Good job, great,
So,
that's super. Anything else? Hearing none, moving on, Highway 47, Missouri River Bridge.
Highway 47, there is some pavement issues down at 47 and 100 in that intersection. So they're going to kind of keep an eye on it. In the springtime, they're going to take a better look at it and remove what needs to be removed and repair that area. And on the bridge project, talking to the RE last week, he was hoping they could get in this week and remove some rock. But I talked to him 10 minutes ago out in the parking lot, and he said with this rain coming in, it might mess them up. And he said they're hoping to get the channel down to about 8 feet, and it's at 9 right now, and with the rain, it's probably going to jump back up. So he said on Wednesday, they're going to decide if they can do anything this week with removing the rock. And the aesthetic lighting, he said they're looking at getting it all finalized in March. There's still some work to do, and it's not been complete, but they are working on it and should be done next month.
Will there be like a recognition that the lights are going to be turned on? I'm sure you'll tell us when it happens, but
Yeah, I mean, we'll know.
You'll-
I'll make sure he lets me know when it is. I can pass that on.
they have been on.
They have been on.
As somewhat of a troubleshooting testing phase. I mean, I think they've been on 100% of the time. I've not been notified that they've been off. And that's been going on since they were off yesterday.
Just at night.
Yeah, at night, yeah, yeah, thank you. Just at night, to save electricity, thanks. But they have not been,
Or whatever.
what's that?
They turn off then at midnight, too.
They do, yeah, they're programmed to turn off at midnight. The only time they will not turn off at midnight is on January 1st of any given year. They turn off at 1 o'clock, 1 a.m. The city, we worked on scheduling 6 different aesthetic features that will turn on at various points throughout the year. You know, for example, 4th of July, July 3rd, it'll be more kind of like meant to look like a fireworks display type situation. So we met internally and actually came up with those different changes. Those automatically change. So they're programmed in the system. They change daylight savings time. We don't have to do anything. We have the ability to override them at any given time to go to a static type feature. So it's kind of, it has not been transferred to the city yet. So we don't own that. The warranty period has not started. The city pays for electric. We pay for any maintenance in the future, any of those things. So just be aware that if there's any issues with the lights, we'll get on as fast as we can. But as you can imagine, it will take time in the future.
where are the controls at, actually? The actual controls, are they in the city facilities or are they on the bridge?
I don't know if that's such a good idea to talk about.
Okay,
But it's in a locked control box that the city has access.
that's fine,
Our IT department does. I don't know how to use it.
that's
but
fine. That's fine.
I'm thinking, so that gets handed over after MoDOT's checked off of it, or?
Correct. There's a formal transfer to the city. So it's a document that once it gets handed over, that starts the warranty period. They're then required to give us kind of a surplus of parts and things, because again, this is a lighting, I mean, technology moves fast. So, 20 years down the road, we don't know what this looks like. So we were able to get a hold of some of the light banks and those type of things so we could use them in the future. It's not a plug-and-play system or a screw in a light bulb. Each kind of bank of light has to be programmed. So it's a pretty impressive system, but with that does come some maintenance concerns.
I would suggest that perhaps one of the opportunities to test that effects thing would be on St. Patty's Day, go green.
Well, it's not colored. They're always white. It's just an effects of what it looks like. So there is no color option.
Hey,
But good question.
color changing.
I would just add one more thing to the bridge. The city's also working with, pretty diligently with the contractor to try to speed this thing up as much as we can. We're allowing them, they have to remove the rock out of the river and then take it to some location. We felt that that location would be very well within the city. So we're working with them on getting that done, potential getting a rock crusher in to essentially have a stockpile of material that we can use in the future. That would limit their hauling and their time. Their biggest deadline is to get the rock out of the river, so we felt if we could speed that up as fast as possible by not having trucks run along that trail, that would speed them up, which would then speed up our trail construction as well. So we're doing what we can. We also went into a contract with Alberici, or a municipal agreement, I'm sorry, with Alberici to take over the responsibility to reconstruct the trail. That trail initially was the responsibility of the contract to bring back to its existing condition, which was a 20-year-old trail. We were very much concerned that we didn't want to see a patchwork or a quilt-like type look of asphalt, so we worked it out with them. That'll leave for approximately $250,000 for the city to reconstruct it. But keep in mind, we can't do that until they're off, out of that area. So we're prepared for that. But as the timeline gets out of winter and we get into spring, I can't promise much as far as how fast can it get done. We're ready to go as soon as the river allows us to.
You couldn't use some of the rock that you're stockpiling to raise that a little bit? Some spots, it's got low spots on the trail.
There was a significant deposition of silt with the flooding events that happened, which I did talk to SEMA and FEMA, and they are allowing us to raise that elevation slightly. So yes, to answer your question, that's the concept.
Good.
Rather than haul it out and haul it back in, let's just haul it one time.
Very good. Any other comments, questions? Hearing none. Franklin County Transportation Committee?
I have no report. We have not met since last meeting.
Yeah, I think there's a meeting coming up in March.
Okay.
In the Highway 47 corridor also, we both the county and the city of Union have got their applications submitted for the grant funding for the 5047 interchange redo, if you will. And we are looking forward to positive response on that. We're the only ones to apply for those funds in this region, so the chances are very, very great that we'll be successful in attaining those. So,
Fantastic. That's everybody working together.
yeah, amen.
You betcha. Thanks. Eric, anything across the river? Special school district?
Road district.
Road district, I'm sorry. Road district.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
That too.
You got school district on your mind.
That's right, I guess I do.
We had what I thought was a good meeting, the city and the district, and of things that we can work together in the future. But and Mark is going to put together an agreement that would satisfy the insurance companies for if we have personnel that cross the line, so kind of waiting on that. So.
Any way that any of this committee could help you in any way? Wouldn't think so.
I just want to echo that it was really a good meeting.
Good.
Yeah, we sat down and Ed was there along with Bernie, and we had a really good meeting that day.
It was a productive meeting.
Very productive, so.
We just sat there and highlighted some projects over the next 5 years that the city's looking at, transportation projects and things where we could do cost shares and work together. So nothing that this committee can do right now, but as we get closer to hopefully having an agreement, then we will share the results of what we're looking at doing over the next 5 years.
Very good, that's great. Glad that worked out.
It was very good.
Old Highway 100 Bridge.
I believe legal is still looking into who owns the asset. Is that
That's correct.
fair? Okay. So there is some,
Clear definition.
yeah, there is some discrepancy about when the new highway, when 100 was relocated, there was a location, it basically just says that anything within the city limits were given to the city, anything outside the city limits were given to the county, MoDOT being they. And the city limits appears to run right down the center line of DuBois Creek, which means that the asset's located on both sides. And it's also located within the special road district as far as the boundary of it. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it was given to them. I'm just saying that there's a lot of different things going on to who owns the asset. I don't think there was actually even a formal agreement where MoDOT gave it to those. It was more of the roadways here, but the asset wasn't necessarily transferred. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Bottom line is gotta figure out who the players are and then get the players together and
Hammer.
maintain and fix, so.
Is it, what's a condition of it? Obviously, it needs to be replaced, is that what you
It's a
guys are
low-rated
saying?
Yeah.
bridge.
It's-
We're gonna have to improve it, especially with all the infrastructure and whatnot that's gonna go out east, so.
Yeah.
Very important.
With
that
the,
we
with
get
the school
east
going in.
infrastructure for
But it hasn't passed, or it has a low.
It does.
A low rating, or it doesn't
It-
pass the rating or something? What is
It
it?
does have a load rating on it. I don't know what that is. I don't know what the load rating is. I will say that when the city was doing our work on Old Highway 100 at East Fifth, when we were replacing or installing that concrete apron for trucks, there was a lot of concern at Franklin County Concrete and the sand plant because there was no secondary access, or I guess a secondary way to leave the concrete plant and the sand plant. So we had to phase that in because we couldn't shut it down because it could not go over top of that bridge, which is a concern for not just Washington, but I would imagine the surrounding community.
So I guess the school buses can't go over it either, huh?
I can't comment on that. I don't know that.
I can't imagine that those school buses would be heavy enough to make a difference. That was going to be my question.
It's not that
And I don't know.
hard.
Yeah,
It's,
they're pretty light.
yeah, and I don't know. Here's the other thing. I can't tell you what the load rating is because it's on Franklin County's list to maintain. So we don't even get access
I don't
to the
have
load
that
rating
big part in my
documentation.
pocket either.
Yeah, so, sorry. Is that what it is? There you go, 16 tons. So
That's the signage on it?
So that isn't, school bus is not 16 tons, so,
I don't care how big the kids are.
thank you.
You keep us informed of what's going on that one. 'Cause that's a key bridge coming into town, and will be in the future. Any other comments about it? Hearing none. Airport?
We've been working with Alberici again on hauling rock to the airport for just future more than anything. It's kind of more of a stockpile situation, but future hangar space, anything that we could use in the future. So that has been completed, from what I've been told from MoDOT, that rock hauling operation has been completed. That was a combination of the city, Alberici working together. The city actually placed the rock. It was witnessed by Geotech, so we do believe that we do have a pad there that we could extend hangars to, and we're hoping to kind of speed that process up a little bit. I am meeting with our consultant, hopefully in the next couple weeks, to see what that schedule looks like on additional hangar construction. You know, it would be a 4 to 6 bay hangar with the ability to extend in the future. I don't have a plan or anything in place. I could show you all what that looks like, but it would be something that we would look at to build between the existing concrete apron and the taxiway outside of, there is some space available there that we could build on. So that opportunity was good for the city. We also did see an increase in acreage for rent. One of our renters came to us. There was approximately 7 acres that used to be rented. When I say used to be, before the new runway was constructed, that apparently was taken out of production for some reason. We went there and actually did some digging for them. They got to look at the actual soil, and they felt they could put it back into production. So that did increase our acreage for rent. It also cut back on some of our mowing, which to me is a benefit on both sides. It doesn't affect the airport at all. It is to the south, away from the taxiway, so we don't see any, significant detriment to any operation over there. So, and we are also going to be adding quarterly fuel sales. I think we can get a better snapshot of what the fuel sales look like on a graph and how that relates to the past 5 years. So if you don't see an update on the fuel sales, those will be coming quarterly now, so we can get a few months to get a feel for how things are looking. We were down a little bit last year, but I would anticipate that was due to the runway closure, for that 3-week time frame to restructure and do that maintenance work.
Any other comments, questions? Hearing none. Team Track?
No report.
East-West Parkway?
No report there.
Nothing new? Public transportation? Oh, we're blowing through this meeting.
We're going fast. It's not even 7 o'clock yet. Look at that.
Any other business? I noticed in the packet, there's a future transportation summit is coming up in March. I've always attended that every year, probably for the last 25 years. It's usually a great meeting. I encourage anybody who wants to go to think about it. It had a lot of key points that I think are, I've been involved with the freightways. Mary Lamey's going to be one of the speakers at the meeting. They're talking about the Hyperloop, the whole idea. They brought that up several years ago, talking about it. Missouri Waterways, of course, that's also Mary Lamey, talking about the ports and/or movement of freight. It looks like we've got the Vice President of Transportation Infrastructure for the U.S. Chamber, Ed Mortimer, is going to be speaking at on the national perspective for transportation future. So it's automated transportation is another, where do we go from here? It's usually a great meeting. Usually lasts all, basically, into the 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's an all-day deal. Again, I encourage anybody who's interested in transportation if they want to go. I will be attending. Any other business?
I have two more things to add that are affecting traffic in town. Highway 100, High Street, the signal, that's been down for going on 6 weeks now, I believe. I believe MoDOT was able to work with their contractor to get the actual pole base poured. I did see a blanket over it yet, a lot of that concrete to cure. Hopefully weather sticks with us and we can actually get that signal back up and operational by the end of the week. Again, that's a MoDOT situation. I know they're working pretty diligently with their contractor to get that taken care of. So again, we just caution any motorists to that area to pay attention to that temporary signal. And then 3rd Street, Ameren is replacing poles from the hospital to essentially Jefferson. They are going to be working on that through middle of March. There will be 3rd Street street closures through them to allow to allow Ameren to work as fast as possible. So there'll be intermediate street closures. We're going to close the street down, allow them to work, open it back up in the afternoon. I think the traffic can get around with a gridded street construction or gridded streets pretty easy. So we just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of that, to pay attention. City Facebook page and any signs on the streets.
Just a question for Steve. Is there anything new funding-wise with the federal transportation bill? I know that comes due in September, and that was a 6-year agreement. Usually they try to have a transportation issue 6 years.
I've not heard anything new.
Nothing new?
I haven't looked at my emails and nothing's.
Nothing's pushing, any push. Does it look like it's going to be a 6-year renewal, or is it going to be a 1-year recurring, what they call it, whatever they call it?
I'm not sure how it works. I
Okay.
don't know.
Okay.
Eric, do you know?
It's just too early to tell. I mean, they're talking about, in DC, $1 trillion for transportation.
Infrastructure, yeah.
So, I mean, that thing will go back and forth, but it seems like both parties should agree on transportation, so.
You would think they don't, though.
Stand up.
Yeah.
And you guys are aware of the build grant that came out for applications from the feds?
New one?
Yeah.
I am not.
So the DOT just announced $1 billion to upgrade American infrastructure grants. So it can support roads, bridges, transit, rail, ports, intermodal transportation. And the DOT intends to award 50% of build grants to projects located in rural areas. I think similar to last year, maximum grant of $25 million, no more than $100 million in a single state. And then the applications are due May 18th of this year. So that just went out a week or two ago.
Are you guys going to resubmit the raising the floodplain, or raising the
That's up
highway?
to
out of floodplain?
Chad with Boonslick.
Yes.
So I have not heard from him, but I did share that information with him last week as well.
Good. I think that's the project we tried to get last funding cycle, or last year. Was it a year or 2 years ago?
It was about a year ago. I think.
Year ago.
The last application cycle.
Yeah, the build grant replaced the grant that helped us get the bridge built the $10 million. What was the name of that?
Tiger.
Tiger Grant,
Grant,
that's it.
yeah.
I should have remembered that.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a similar it's the same program, basically, set up the same way. And it's designed for smaller communities, smaller projects that wouldn't be considered in many cases. That could be a good one for the county, too. That's another idea that, never thought about that. And I didn't know they were going to continue it every year. Very good. Thank you. Anything else? Looks like sales tax continued to come in. Looks like it's up, what? Let's say 5% over the previous year. I'll ask, Darren, do we pay, when we get more money in, do you use that to pay off the outstanding balance early? Or is there any, like when the sales tax increases, the capital portion of the,
No, we just use that as, do we pay off the,
Transportation.
The transportation, the
outstanding
stuff?
loans or outstanding notes, or,
we pay the schedule, we pay extra if we have.
that's what I was asking.
Yeah,
That's it.
basically. Yeah.
Pay extra if we have it.
Okay, very good.
So,
All right, that's the only question I have with that. Anything else? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to. Have a motion to adjourn. Have a second.
Yeah.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you all.
All right, thanks.
Oh.
Got through that one. Pretty good. That was good.
Oh, yeah, these are every year, they had Uber there.
See ya.
Okay.
See you, Joe.
Here, I gotta, so, no, I don't, so, that was Sunday, spring.
There you go.